you like a lot of football on your podcasts and other things, then this is Hold and Give. I might stop doing that, you know. It doesn't feel right. It feels like I'm sleeping with somebody else, Jack Atkins.
Yeah, because I'd actually forgotten that we did that as the intro now, because I was expecting, you know, the words to the seminal New Order classic then.
What? Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think. Join our club? What? New World? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, did you know that Real Madrid beat their own reserve side in the 1980 Copa del Rey final? Madrid, of course, have won the Copa del Rey on 20 occasions in their illustrious and white history. That was a weird turn of phrase. You know what I'm trying to say, though? They're called Los Blancos, aren't they? They all play in white, don't they? But their 1980 triumph is infamous because their opponents in the final was Real Madrid Castilla, who is, of course, their B team, essentially, who they did beat on that occasion, 6-1 at the Bernabeu. Castilla CF qualified directly for the next edition of the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup as a result of getting to the final. Isn't that crazy?
I'm just quite glad that the B team managed to get a goal there. I can imagine that whoever was in charge of Real Madrid's, you know, main team there probably gave someone a bollocking off the back of that.
I was just about to say, could Rafa Benitez have been in that team? But 1980 probably was a bit too early for him.
Oh yeah, probably. He's probably, you know, running a fish and chip van at age 9 or something. I don't know. I love Rafa Benitez.
So do I, but he's still got that receding hairline even in 1980, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. There he is.
Yeah, of course.
The Scousness is poking through. But we're here this week. Well, I'll ask you how you're doing. How's your week been?
All right. Busy. It's been very rainy here. Merseyside Twitter was popping off yesterday because Conor McGregor apparently battered someone in a pub in Birkenhead.
I did see that. In the runaway in the Range Rover.
Yeah. And then posted a voice note saying Birkenhead was his. And I was just like... It's such an odd little town, Birkenhead, and even odder when Conor McGregor's allegedly filling people in. But I'm okay. I can't complain. How are you?
I'm dying inside. I went to bed at home for 3 days and didn't really sleep and drank for 3 days. My liver hurts. My kidneys hurt. I've had this weird pain in my chest for a few days now that won't go away. I'm a day away from going to the doctors for that. It's all been terrible. I can't stop pooing through the eye of a needle. It's absolutely awful.
How's your foot, though? Have you got gammy foot again, or is that okay?
My foot's fine. I've got no blisters. I wear proper shoes now that agree with my feet, not those New Balance crap.
I love a pair of New Balance. You just clearly got advised wrongly on that one.
So did I. I loved them for years, and then I went... Let me tell you, I went for a 2-mile walk, dear viewer, to the barber's one morning, came back with a blister the size of a giant orange. I don't know why giant orange came in my head, but that was how big it was. It was so big.
Yeah, because I remember that you and I were the only ones in the office at the time because it was still social distancing and we were keeping our distance. But I had no internet because I just moved flat and you had just taken the office as your own because you were like, this is my domain.
Yes.
And you were just like, do you want to see my foot? And I was like, not really, Ross, no thank you. And you're like, go on, it's peeling, it's horrible. I was like, again, no, I'm fine, thank you.
And I unwrapped me bandage, and showed you a blister that had totally encapsulated my heel. It was delightful. Anyway, you're not here to hear about that sort of stuff, are you? You're here to hear stuff about what happened on this day in football history.
Oh yeah, so we're trialing something new, and this all came about after a chat in the group messages this morning, and I thought, you know what, I'll save that for the podcast. So we are recording July 19th, 2023. On this day,
sorry, I went too early. I was waiting for the big wait, here we go.
Oh, go on then, right? 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Yeah. So on this day. 1908, July 19th. Feyenoord was established in Rotterdam as a Wilhelmina. It became SC Feyenoord in 1912, SC Feyenoord spelled differently in 1974, and then Feyenoord Rotterdam in 1978. Isn't that lovely, Ross?
Nah, because Feyenoord's got some link to the Mackems. I don't know what the link is, but I think they're like their Dutch sister club or something. I'm not sure what's gone on there, but yeah, I've got no time for Feyenoord. They can stick their 3-2 defeat at Newcastle up their arse as far as I'm concerned. 2002, it's Bellamy in off the goalkeeper. That's what I'm talking about. Feyenoord.
All right, then, well, maybe on a better note, 1966, in one of the all-time World Cup upsets, North Korea beat Italy 1-0 in front of 17,829 at Ayresome Park, Middlesbrough. Hep the better.
Hep the better.
North Korea became the first Asian country to qualify for the knockout stages of the World Cup, and Italy went home.
Oh, did you say 17,000? 1-7?
1-7, yeah.
God, you would expect more from a football hotbed in the northeast of England. Well, nearly the northeast of England.
1966, though.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, because but people didn't really care for safety then. It was just like, 2p for your ticket, get in, go on.
Yeah, 10 men to a seat, you would probably say now these days.
Right, do you want some more? This one will hit you right in the cockles of your heart. 2005. Emre joined Graham Souness's Newcastle.
Oh, he's a big dirty racist, so he is. Excuse me, my throat went there. I can't say too much glowing stuff about Emre after what went on with what was he called? He split for Spurs, was it? Zakora? Was it the midfielder?
I don't know.
He kicked him in the chest. Talk about Emre for a bit, and I'll just firm this up just to make sure I'm not chatting bollocks again.
Well, he came in big fanfare. Obviously, I know that Newcastle fans aren't really keen for Graham Souness's time in charge, much like Liverpool fans aren't keen for Graham Souness's time in charge. Came in a big whirlwind. I think he played, handful of times, and then was shipped off again, wasn't he? Injured a lot.
No, well, he had a fair few injuries, but I remember we was signed him for like 3-point-something million, which was like, he's come from Inter Milan. He only cost 3-point-something million. He played when Inter Milan dicked on us in the Champions League a year or two before at St James's Park. Recoba bending at the top corner, and Emre's there behind him going, hoo-hoo! Because he was small. He was small, you see. But he came in, he was quality, but it was the injury stuff that got in the way. I think he was here for two seasons, and he would have left in 2007. But I found the article, by the way. Didier Zakora, the former Spurs midfielder, literally kicked racism out of football in 2012. This is when Zakora was playing for a team in the Turkish Super League that I can't find. Apparently heard a racial slur from Emre and then just kicked him in the chest or bollocks, one of the two. And it was thoroughly deserved, obviously.
Yeah, very good.
So get out, Emre. It's not been a very good debut for this segment, has it?
Well, it's going to get even better because this is what spurred it on. So this morning in my group chat, my mate posted a screenshot of his Facebook from 2010 on this day. And I had a similar one because on this day, Joe Cole joined Roy Hodgson's Liverpool.
Now, this is Joe Cole, who had just won the league with Chelsea and was one of the leading players for Chelsea, and everyone said was like the best free signing, potentially in football history.
Yeah, and we were all very, very excited, and we all posted on Facebook at the time. I just put Joe Cole, because it's 2010, and I was an arsehole. And he wasn't very good at Liverpool. He got sent off in his debut against Arsenal. One of my collector's items I have, I was present at Anfield for a Joe Cole goal, so I've got that one. I'll tell that to the grandkids. It was against Birmingham, 2010-2011 season. We won 5-0. Dirk scored, Joe Cole scored, and it was Maxi Rodriguez hat-trick when he had those 2 games on the bounce where he scored 6 and 2. And it was amazing.
The other one was Fulham, was it?
I think so. I think it was Fulham first. Like, I couldn't even remember that it was against. Like, it's become a running joke that my memory's terrible. I just remembered I've seen Joe Cole score, as did Maxi. Can't remember who it was against, so I had to Google it and remind myself. In terms of how bad my memory is, this is a little segue. I saw because I've not long moved home, bumped into one of my mates recently who'd not long ago had their second child, and I wasn't aware of it because I'd had a bit of a social media break. So I only found out recently. He was like, I had a second kid. I didn't even know. Congratulations. And then we were chatting for a minute. And then she went, hang on. I saw you last year at a wedding when I was 7 months pregnant. So you definitely knew. And I was just like, just went, hadn't it? But yeah, apart from my bad memory, there's some great things that happened on this day in football history. We had Ross's favourite team, Feyenoord. We had a big dirty racist side for Newcastle. We had Joe Cole joining Roy Hodgson. Tune in next week for more underwhelming tales on this day. It's a thriller minute here on the Hold and Give Football podcast. My goodness. Anyway, we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out as we go along. We are, yeah. But in the news this week, obviously, we've got to start with Dele Alli. It's been a heavy week with this. It was a bit of a shock when the podcast got released with Gary Neville on the overlap, just thinking, oh my God, what's this all about? He obviously opened up about his battles with sort of mental health and addiction and sexual abuse. He just got
got back from he revealed in the interview, if you haven't seen it, he just got back from a 6-week stint in rehab after his time in Turkey came to an end. He was addicted to sleeping pills, something he says is more prevalent in football than people realise. Then he went on to say that he was sexually abused by his alcoholic mother's friend at the age of 6, and that's just led to all sorts of trauma that hasn't really left him, even though now he's 27. He says trauma's trauma, and I think we all know exactly, like, you know, the trauma is trauma line, how that affects everybody in that certain way. Not saying we understand that situation specifically, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I've got to stop saying yeah, of course, because you're just going to take the piss, haven't we?
Then off the back of that, he was sent to South Africa to learn discipline. Then he was sent back to England. Then there's a quote here from the interview which is unbelievable, saying, at 7, I started smoking. 8, I started dealing drugs. An older person told me they wouldn't stop a kid on a bike, so I rode around with my football, and then underneath I'd have the drugs. That was at 8. 11, I was hung off a bridge by a guy next to the estate. A man. I mean, this you truly don't know, do you? You don't know what people have been through in life, do you? But thankfully, by the age of 12, he was adopted by what he called an amazing family, who he stayed with until the age of 16, and that's when his career started to kick off with the MK Dons, and it went from there. But you don't know what, it's an emotional watch, isn't it?
It was, really. I mean, you've just gone over the clip notes from it there, but it was a heavy watch. I'd seen it trending, and then got it on my phone while I was potting around after work, and I just just doing stuff around the house, but I had to stop and watch it. It was really rough, and I felt for the lad, because obviously, like you said, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I remember, I've taken the piss out of Dele Alli before. And I remember when he did, there was pictures of him doing balloons at a party, wasn't there? And people were saying he's throwing away his talent and all that. But obviously, like you said, he's been through some heavy stuff. So yeah, I hope he can move on and gets the help he needs and continues to just do well.
I hope it changes how we look at players as well, because on the outside, obviously looking at Dele Alli, had the world at his feet when he was all those years leading up to when he was about 21. Then it sort of started to decline. Then, as you say, the pictures with the laughing gas and whatnot seemed to be not like monthly, but it seemed to be like more regular than not. You would see something where Dele Alli was doing something he shouldn't be doing as a professional football player without knowing the reasons for that. He was coping with all that bollocks he went through as a child. So where this goes from here, we don't know. There was talk over the weekend there, I saw in the papers in Benidorm, that Pochettino might take him in at Chelsea, see if he can get him back to what he was when he was at Spurs.
I mean, he goes on at length about how Pochettino really kind of nurtured him, and he had nothing but positive words to say about him and his backroom staff. So if it's getting him into that environment that does him well, then yeah, go for it. He also said that, Everton have been really understanding, been giving him whatever he needed. Like he said, he's just been to rehab, and he said they've been really good. So at the end of it's obviously, at the end of the day, it's a business. It's got a move that's got to make sense for whatever club he goes to. But he's still, what did you say, 26, 27?
27, yeah. So
he's not even reached his peak yet. If Pochettino can get him cooking again, yeah, that'll be a good move for him. And I don't know, I don't even know what this new look Chelsea's going to be, so there could be a space for Dele Alli. Who knows? Yeah,
I just hope he gets back on his feet. I tell you what, another bit of a sort of like underlying, bit of huge scoop, I guess should say, is the line about sleeping tablets in football, and it's something you never think about. I was just thinking, imagine Gerrard on that night against Olympia, well, any Champions League night. The game finishes at 10 p.m. at night, then they got to calm down and get ready for training the next day. I never once put the bits together and thought, oh yeah, all these footballers might just, have to have a sleeping tablet to calm down after a match.
Yeah, I've never thought that as well, because it's the old cliche, isn't it? Before a cup final, you're just like, oh, I bet he didn't get a wink of sleep last night, and it's like, well, yeah, probably not. That's you can understand why use of sleeping tablets is so widespread.
Yeah, bloody hell. Who knows what's going on in football behind closed doors? Anyway, from there we go to Manchester City, or then former defender Benjamin Mendy's found himself a new club, this time for League 1 side Lorient, 5 days after he was cleared of something we can't say on the video. We want to say it, but the YouTube censors just pick it up and demonetize it already. But since it's a football podcast and you're watching, you know what we're talking about. The left back, who's 29 now, his City contract expired in the summer. This summer, he signed a 2-year deal with the French club. He was cleared of that thing we can't say, but want to say, but can't say, at Chester Crown Court on Friday. Mendy, if just in case you forgot, because I certainly did, he became the world's most expensive defender when Manchester City paid Monaco $52 million to sign him in 2017. He won the Premier League in his first season before going on to win the World Cup at the end of that season. And interestingly enough, he last played a competitive game in August of 2021. And I just thought I'd say it because it's big news today. I don't know what comment to make on it. I don't know if you have a comment to make on it.
Oh, yeah. Nothing, no comments on the court case allegations, all that stuff. In terms of it being a footballing move, you can understand why City weren't keen to re-up his contract if he's not played for nearly 2 years. They've got a treble to try and beat, haven't they? So it makes sense for them to ship him off. And like you said, for someone who was formerly the world's most expensive defender, which I'd forgotten about, it's a good scoop in football in terms for Lorient if Mendy gets his form back.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
We've got the heavy stuff out the way early. It's time to wartish the podcast into the silly bollocks that is Liverpool transfers to Saudi Arabia. Way! First and foremost, we know that Jordan Henderson is currently considering an approach from Saudi Arabian side Al Etty. You know what? Because once again, if they hear that syllable, they'll demonetize the video. Once the one that's managed by Steven Gerrard, essentially, and who doesn't have any big names in the squad currently. News on this broke early today. Jackie Orlando over there told me that Jordan Henderson will not be involved in the Liverpool friendly. Again, it's Karlsruhe CSC this evening. Where the hell's that? Germany. Fantastic. Yeah. He's not going to be there, according to Fabrizio Romano. Of course, the rumour and innuendo says that it's £700,000 a week for Jordan Henderson over at Al Etty. You know what? He's 33 years old. He's basically completed football. It's one of those transfers that makes all the sense in the world. It's one of those ones, as a fan over here, you'd think, oh yeah, fair enough, let's let it happen because he's completed football. It would obviously be more of a loss, I think, to the Liverpool dressing room than it would be to Liverpool on the pitch, as they continue the rebuild in their midfield. Just in case you're wondering, he's got 2 years remaining on the 4-year contract he signed back in 2021, so there would have to be a transfer fee involved. Over his 12 years at Liverpool, he's won everything in 492 appearances in all competitions. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'll delve into my thoughts on the matter of it a little later on in the podcast. In terms of from footballing reasons, like you were saying, 700 grand a week is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. There was rumblings that Al Etty were hoping to get him on a free. They were just under the impression that, we can get him on a free if we just ask Liverpool nicely enough. And obviously 2 years left on his contract. Still the captain, big presence in the locker room. We've said absolutely not. The rumours and the words is somewhere between 10 to 20 million because they've looked at some of the other deals that have gone to Saudi Arabia and they've just been like, well, no, if player B who's got no knees and hasn't done anything is going for 60 million, we want 20 million for a 33-year-old Jordan Henderson. So.
I'm making that noise because there's a transfer involving my beloved Newcastle United going to Saudi Arabia, and the price is mooted for that are a disgrace. But we'll get onto that a bit later on. More on Liverpool now. Yeah,
but for Henderson, it was he's a very divisive player amongst the fan base. His legs are pretty much gone. He had a terrible season last season, as did quite a few players with Liverpool. It's the double whammy of losing Milner and Henderson while we're in the middle of this rebuild. It's like, it's not great, but I think he's gone. I don't think there's any chance of him staying now.
No,
so,
and I'm guessing you're going to maybe talk about that statement he made a couple of years ago in the Twat of the Week segment.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how that. But I can only relate that to when Gary Speed left Newcastle, because that was like Bobby Robson's one of his lieutenants in the dressing room. He left, and then the likes of your Kieran Dyes and your Jermaine Genius has started taking the absolute piss out of Bobby Robson, and it cost him his job like a month into the season. So hopefully something doesn't happen like that to Jurgen Klopp. You would assume not, but stranger things have happened in football.
Yeah, we seem to have quite a nice group of players in the dressing room. So, and there's still leadership figures there, like Van Dijk's the Dutch captain. You've got Andy Robertson, Scottish captain, and Szoboszlai's the Hungarian captain, I think. So there are leadership figures there. But like I said, Henderson's he's been a great servant to the club.
Oh yes, right. If he goes for 20 million, that's what you paid for him. Because I remember I lived with a Scouse lad who was a Coppite, sat at the top of the Cop at the end of the row, and we had a mock press conference with the then, I think she was the Sunderland chief executive. It was one disgraced in the whole Adam Johnson thing, Margaret Byrne. When I was at uni, it was about 2013 maybe, early parts of 2013, maybe the back end of 2012. We had like a mock press conference with her at university, because I went to the University of Sunderland, for those who don't know. And the question he asked, we used to sit in the back row because we were the cool kids. He said, how much? Well, I can't. Should I do the accent? Yeah, I'll do the accent. So he said this to Margaret, but like 200 journalism students in this room. He goes, "How much were you laughing when you gave us 20 million for Jordan Henderson?" And I was like, "Wow, how much times have changed now that you're sitting there going 20 million, great servant to the club here in 2023."
Yeah. Another one that I have to tell the grandkids. I was there at Anfield for Jordan Henderson's first Liverpool goal. Off the top of my head, of course, I can't remember who it was against, but I remember sitting in the main stand. Jordan Henderson scored Charlie Adams' first Liverpool goal as well. He was a great player, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. That was a good signing for Liverpool. It's weird how it didn't work out.
He was an all right player, but we needed to be looking a bit better if we wanted to kick on. And this wasn't too long after we'd signed Joe Cole and Christian Poulsen and Milan Jovanovic and Paul Konchesky.
And John Joe. Yeah. Don't forget John Joe. How dare you?
John Joe did okay for us. He scored from near the halfway line against Chelsea once, I think. He's
the next one, apparently. Now he's being banished from Nottingham Forest. Apparently, Big Stevie wants to get him back. Back with him over in Saudi Arabia. It's Al Eti, you know what?
That would be box office, to be fair. John Joe Shelby going absolutely mad in the Saudi League. That'd be fantastic.
You know what we've not talked about on this podcast? It's that video of that lass who went back to John Joe Shelby's house, and John Joe Shelby put his career highlights on the television for a girl I assume he wanted to fornicate with. I don't know. It looked like after a night out sort of thing. He's trying to pull this lady, to use some manly men vernacular. And what he put on was his career highlights.
That would be like the equivalent of like... I was getting back after a set and you put on a playlist of Straight to Hell on.
This was my career highlight, this interview with Chelsea Green. Nothing against Chelsea Green, that's just the first name that came to mind. But yes, what a weird guy.
Yeah. Very strange. I remember the Mirror Twitter account never used to call him Shelby. They called him Hoodie because of that picture of a hoodie hanging on the back of a door that looked like John Joe Shelby.
I've never seen that picture in my life.
I'll try and find it for you later. But yeah,
I tell you what, though, there's a bit of a story from my hometown of Morpeth up here in the northeast of England, where I was born and raised. Newcastle footballer. This is from when. This is published on the Daily Mail, or Mail Online back in 2019. Newcastle footballers, including former England star John Joe Shelby, are caught up in bust-up outside pizza shop just hours before jetting off on club's pre-season tour of China. John Joe Shelby and Carl Darlow involved in a melee after a night drinking. Carl Darlow was seen kicking a man in the back after he was pushed to the ground. A source said a group of lads called Shelby a bald "see you next Tuesday." He laughed it off and told one, "Go back to your council house, you peasant." The footballer's 3 a.m. fracas took place after a pub crawl in Morpeth, Northumberland, is where Carl Darlow lives, by the way. At 10 a.m, the Stars joined the team on a flight to China, where they lost the game 4-0. That was the Steve Bruce era of Newcastle United.
I didn't mean to laugh at what sounded like a serious assault allegation. It was just the idea of imagine going to get a kebab and looking outside and Carl Darlow and John Joe Shelby are filling someone in.
There's a video, if you want to look at the Mail Online website, just put that Newcastle footballers, including John Joe Shelby, just put that into Google, and there is a video on there of the fracas taking place on Moorworth High Street. It's a thing that happened. There is a nice little video there. So I don't know why I thought I'd bring it up, but I did. The other bit of Liverpool transfer news going to Saudi Arabia, well, the more concrete one is Fabinho. He's apparently been given permission to travel to Saudi Arabia to undergo a medical with Al Ittihad. The midfielder was omitted from the Reds squad for their pre-season tour of Germany that we mentioned earlier, with that team that I couldn't say the name of. The two clubs, and I said clubs like Rafa Benitez there, the two clubs are now close to agreeing terms over a 40 million deal. And Fabinho has already started saying his goodbyes on Merseyside. Just in case you're wondering, Al Ittihad are the ones who toppled Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr to win last season's Saudi Pro League. And they're the ones who signed Karim Benzema and N'Golo Kante so far this season, and the ones who are managed by Nuno Espirito Santo.
Yeah, this is the one which is it's the double gut punch. Like I said, Liverpool middle of a midfield rebuild, but potentially losing your captain and who is still your starting defensive mid in one swoop has thrown a spanner into the works of pre-season. Because our hopes were, when these rumours first started coming, we were like, right, okay, if Henderson leaves, if we can keep Fabinho, bring in an understudy to have him play under Fabinho for at least a year, and then, do whatever with Fabinho, fully blood in this new player. Whereas now it's now looking like, right, we need to get someone in who can start. We've been linked with, God, let me get the list.
Doucouré from Crystal Palace is the big one today. Yeah,
there's Doucouré, Lavia from Southampton, Phillips from City, Ryan Gravenberch.
Hang on, hey, what do you mean, Phillips from City?
Well, Pep Guardiola basically said last season that he's fat, and he's been injured, and he's older than you think, and he hasn't had any game time for a year. If this was the Phillips from Leeds, I'd be like, yeah, okay, but City's Phillips, it's different story, isn't it?
I feel bad for Calvin Phillips that Pep Guardiola went public with that comment. That should have stayed behind closed doors. We don't know how fat he was. He's not even fat, is he? He was never fat. How overweight he was, I guess we should say, for what Pep expects him to be. It might have been a kilogram. It might have been 5 kilograms. We don't know. I thought he was out of order for doing that. Bald prick.
Yeah. Especially going back to the Dele Alli stuff and the lazy quotes from Jose Mourinho and how they affected him.
That was unreal. Yeah. That's how they took the next week's meeting out, the documentary, so everyone just thought, oh, that's how it went. When Mourinho was like, oh, you're a lazy guy, but then he apologised and said he trained well the next week. But that wasn't in the documentary. Bollocks, that, innit?
Yeah. Well, yeah, getting back to it, yeah. So Calvin Phillips has been one of the ones linked. Gravenberch, Amrabat, and Kimmich, which is never going to happen. But I'd be putting money on Liverpool win the league if we somehow got Kimmich in from Bayern. But not happening, is it?
You know who you might go in for? Who I saw was put up for sale this week by Bayern Munich?
Go on.
Goretzka. Goretzka's been put up for sale for like 35 million or something.
Was it 35? Because the line I'd heard is that Goretzka and Kimmich aren't unsellable anymore, which to me doesn't really say that they're for sale. It's just that if someone came along with a big fat bag of cash and said, do you need help funding your Harry Kane move, that they'd be like, oh yeah, let's let him go. I can see one of them leaving if they get a bid. I can't see him getting rid of both of them. But
I bet you said that about Milner and Henderson this summer, didn't you?
I'm Fabinho, jeez. If we were playing Football Manager with the cheats on, I'd be going for Kimmich and Lavia, because Lavia is what, 19?
Yeah.
We've been linked with him, and like we were saying before, there was the idea of bringing him in and having him learn under Fabinho, but that's gone out the window now. So I don't know. I just hope we get someone. It's Liverpool. We might get no one. We might be like, oh, Curtis Jones is like a new signing, isn't he? We can try him in the 6. Oh,
you've got Bajcetic. What more do you need?
That's true, but again, he's very young. He still needs someone to learn off. We've still got Thiago, who's not really an out-and-out DM, and you can't really get more than 10 games out of him a season. I don't know. I don't know. I'll wait and see.
Just make Van Dijk a centre midfielder. That's all you need to do. Then we have the less concrete rumour of Al Hilal coming in for Luis Diaz for around £43 million. And just to quote Jack Atkins on the other side of the screen there, "Sit down, you gang of gimps."
Yeah, 43 mil. No, not happening.
How much did you pay for him?
I can't remember. It was less than 40 mil, but we've only had him. We haven't had him that long, and we've just given him the number 7 shirt. It's not happening.
Who took the number 9 this week? I saw that headline, but I didn't click on it because I didn't really care.
It was that beautiful wild horse of a man, Darwin Núñez.
He's number 9.
He's
He's going to crumble even more under the pressure, is he not?
Oh, I don't know. We were all getting excited this week because Jurgen Klopp had a press conference and said, "Yeah, he reminds me of like Lewandowski, because when Lewandowski came in, he couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo," and we were just all like, "Oh, here we go."
Is this when Lewandowski was a centre half at the start of his career?
More than likely, yeah. But he's saying that they used to have bets with each other in training, and he'd be like, "Oh, if you can score 10 on the bounce, I'll give you, 20 euros or something like that." And yeah, and then he eventually became Robert Lewandowski. So
I still wonder what would happen if he went to Blackburn under Sam Allardyce. Remember those days? That would have been one hell of a transfer from Lech Poznan, I think it was. Anyway, back to Diaz.
Let's do the pass now.
Yeah, you paid £37.5 million with up to £12.5 million of add-ons.
Of course, yeah. I knew that.
12.5 million of add-ons. That's incredible. I've never seen it that big before.
Yeah, well, those kind of clauses are getting bigger and bigger because whatever is the reported transfer fee now is usually 2/3 of what actually gets paid out, isn't it?
Anyone else go to Saudi Arabia? Or can we move on?
Oh, I think we can move on.
We're going to move on. Barcelona.
Actually, no. Obviously from Newcastle.
Well, yeah, I was going to leave it for the end because it's a travesty, but Alan Saint-Maximin, financial fair play has been named by Eddie Howe as the reason why Alan Saint-Maximin is going to leave Newcastle. Howe says the impact of FFP and Eddie Howe wanting to sign someone to take the place of Saint-Maximin in the team is the reason why he's off to Saudi Arabia. Where he could have gone in the world, apart from there, it remains to be seen. I don't like the taste of us doing any transfer dealings with anyone in Saudi Arabia, let alone a club like Al Ahly, who are apparently the team who are in for him. I saw a lot of people on last night, well, a fair few journalists and ITK accounts and stuff like that, saying £21 million for Alan Saint-Maximin. Craig Hope, who works for the Daily Mail, who's fairly on the ball with Newcastle stuff, says £30 million for Alan Saint-Maximin. Now, we've got to ask questions about the deals that are like Koulibaly. I can't remember the figure he went for to Saudi Arabia off the top of my head, but it was way too much money compared to what he can actually offer them at this stage of his career. Alan Saint-Maximin is in the prime of his life. Yes, he's not Eddie Howe's type of footballer, that's fine. Eddie Howe ball does not suit Alan Saint-Maximin. Alan Saint-Maximin does not suit Alan Ball? Where the hell did that come from? Eddie Howe Ball. What the hell's Alan Ball going to do?
Alan Saint-Maximin is a massive Alan Ball fan, of course.
He is the modern day incarnation of Alan Ball. And Adam Ball, I'm having a mare here today. It was clear from the get-go, or mainly from this season, that Alan Saint-Maximin was not Eddie Howe's cup of tea in terms of the high press and all that stuff that Eddie Howe brings to a football team. So the fact he's going, I'm fine with. It's just the price when compared to other deals that have been sent to Saudi Arabia that makes me go like, let alone what's going on with Newcastle potentially and the Saudi state and this PIF and all that sort of stuff, which I'm terrified of because I just get the feeling if we get asked questions of that entire thing, we won't be able to answer them. We'll be like, oh, we've been found out. That's the way I'm feeling at the moment. But I'm asking questions of Chelsea's dealings with Saudi Arabia and these other players who've gone for massive inflated transfer fees compared to a potential 30 million for Alan Saint-Maximin. Because that's a little bit too low, is it not? Am I being silly? Yeah. I know he doesn't. No. I know he doesn't score and assist many, but he's a hell of a talented footballer.
Yeah, because how much was it that Neves went for recently? It was double that, wasn't
I'll Google that while you say your feelings.
Yeah, because obviously markets fluctuate, don't they? And they're all structured on whatever deals have gone before, like the way that Chelsea's spree last season kind of buggered the market up for everyone else because they were paying over the odds. It's the same with Saudi Arabia because they paid over the odds for so many players now when you are seeing someone like Allen coming in his prime and being linked with that kind of move away, and like we were saying before with Jordan Henderson, I think it was the Koulibaly transfer that made us go, but we want 20 odd million for Jordan Henderson if you're paying that much. It's, yeah, if you judge it against the other ins and outs from the league, it seems very low. If this was the first approach for any player from the Saudi league and they said 20 to 30 million for Allen, you'd be like, oh, that seems, yeah, okay, because you don't know what they're playing with, but you know they've got the money, so put up or shut up.
I mean, on one hand, it is like, well, it does feel like we're getting robbed a bit. On the other hand, I think we only paid 16 for him, so it is like we're doubling our money there after 4 good years of service. Like, he came when it was horrible. Yeah. The tactic was under Steve Bruce, just put Maximan up front and just kick the ball to him and just keep you the 10 players behind the ball. And the fact he came when the club was at its, like, on its knees was fantastic, just to see someone like that who could have gone somewhere else, you would imagine. I know he had a little bit of a reputation for being a bit of a troublemaker when he was at Nice, but the fact he's going to be 27 next March, it feels wrong. But then again, a lot of stuff with Saudi Arabia feels wrong, doesn't it?
Do you think he'll be fondly remembered as a cult hero?
Oh, yeah, big time. I mean, I'm looking at his stats right now. It's 26 appearances, 3 goals in his first season, 25 and 3, 35 and 5, and then last season it was 25 and 1. So he's not the guy who's going to get you the massive goals and assists, but he is that player that gets you out your seat, which is a Newcastle fan. It's what we want. We want a team of players to get us out our seat. We don't give a toss if we win or lose. It's just like... Kevin Keegan once said that Newcastle fans treat football like going to the theatre. If you're from the south, you go to the theatre on the weekend to be entertained. We go to the football to be entertained as well. So he was directly one of those like entertainer sort of players. He's obviously does wonderful stuff off the pitch as well. He did stuff in the local community here and stuff, and his board game, he got bloody sick of hearing about that board game on Instagram, but he was certainly a character. But again, if Eddie Howe thinks he doesn't fit into his team and Harvey Barnes fits what he wants to do better, which I think he does because he works harder, essentially. And I think he's got more of an end product as well compared to St. Maximan, as we saw for Harvey Barnes, his 14 goals last season. I think it's a deal that does, getting him out the door at least makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, when a player you like is on the way out, but like you said, if it makes sense, it makes sense. But I'd be looking for a couple more quid than that.
So would I. Then we go to Barcelona, everybody. Barcelona have confirmed the signing of defensive midfielder Oriol Romeu from Girona. He's the man who's going to replace Sergio Busquets, whose contract expired at the end of the season and who signed to play for Lionel Messi's Inter Miami, to occupy one of the club's designated player roster spots. Romeu previously spent 8 years with Barcelona, playing for Barcelona B, making 2 appearances for the senior side before moving to Chelsea in 2011. Apparently the fee is going to be €5 million plus add-ons, while young midfielder Pablo Torre, or Tor, one of the 2 pronunciations, he goes to Girona in the other way for a loan for a season. And also, as Kieran at work pointed out today, there is a €400 million release clause on this contract for some reason.
It really took me by surprise, because obviously Romeu to Chelsea, I remember when it happened, but he played a handful of times, sent out on loan a few times, more of a Southampton player. And like you mentioned there, Kieran in work is a big Southampton fan. But when he put in that Euro release clause, and we were joking, saying they clearly mean 40, don't they? They definitely mean 40. Or do you reckon they're just trying to be cheeky because they're just skint and they're just like, just make it 400 million, who knows? Who knows? What might come in for him?
It's just a bit of man management going like, if we slap this on, he'll think he's Bertie Big Bollocks and he'll run through a brick wall for us.
You'd think that if they were a kid, but he's been around a little while and he probably knows, that he's good. If he's good enough to get a move to Barcelona, that should be, enough of a pat on the back for him. But if you're only going for €5 million, come on, you can't pull the wool over someone's eyes that much.
I guess so. Atletico Madrid forward João Felix has confirmed his desire to join Barcelona. Felix, of course, joined Chelsea on loan for the second half of last season, but only managed to bag 4 goals in 20 appearances, and obviously Chelsea didn't decide then to pursue a permanent transfer. What he's been said about this to Fabrizio Romano, he said, "I'd love to play for Barcelona. Barcelona has always been my first choice, and I'd love to join Barcelona." Where do you think he wants to play. It was always my dream since I was a kid. If it happens, it will be a dream come true for me. Reports in Spain that say that Barcelona actually struck a deal back in January of 2022 to sign João Felix when he still had a reputation, to pay an initial 70 million euros with a further 65 million euros in add-ons. What? Only FFP regulations got in the way of that one, but now it looks like Felix is off to PSG, because of course he is.
It was a weird move. His move to Chelsea is one of those that last season I was like, Chelsea, if they click, they're gonna batter everyone. Oh my god! And then obviously they fell apart like wet cake, didn't they? PSG, it'll be one of those. He'll probably stay there for 3 seasons, win everything, and look like he's dying inside every time he touches the football.
He'll have the fans battering down his garden gates. That's what they love to do in Paris, isn't it? Not that made me sound like I was talking about the riots there. That's what they did to Neymar before the riots kicked off, I should say, just to make that clear. They turned up at Neymar's house and were going, "Oh, get out." I made a right tit of that.
I like how French that was then as well.
By the way, just in case you're wondering as well, Eric Cantona has released a song.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. I can't. I must say, I wasn't going to bring it up, and I forgot that I wasn't going to bring it up because it might have some historical significance to the people of France that I'm unaware of, and I don't want to be that typical arrogant Englishman who doesn't give a toss about other places like traditions and stuff like that. Because it's not a toe tapper, is it, Jack Atkins?
It's not. It's a wistful number. It's one that makes you think.
It's something about like the friends we lost or something like that. And I'm just going to read one of the YouTube comments that I highlighted there. Where's the comment? I need to find the comment now. I should be more prepared for this podcast. We spoke a lot yesterday. We never talked to each other outside this podcast. Why do we speak so much? Oh, it doesn't matter. Apparently 2 big French composers or something like that were going to find it very good. And I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't take the piss out of it. Anyway, we move on. Man United have announced that...
I was just going to say, but before you move on though, please, if to you listening out there, seek it out. There's a bit about a minute into the video, and there's a shot that lingers for 10 seconds, and it's amazing. And you'll know it when you see it.
I might make it the thumbnail for this podcast.
Yeah, do it.
It's the thumbnail for the podcast, if you can see it on YouTube and or Spotify. Right, Manchester United have announced that Marcus Rashford had signed a new contract until 2028. The forward's previous deal was up at the end of next season, but the Red Devils have always been confident of tying him down to a new term contract parity, despite lingering interest from PSG. £325,000 a week for a man who still, when I was not aware about this until looking at his record, he still hasn't reached 80 Premier League goals. He made his debut back in 2015-16 season, 239 Premier League appearances, 76 Premier League goals, 37 Premier League assists. But then again, you may be thinking that Erik ten Hag could be the guy to get like that consistent top level out of a guy who did get 30 goals last season, to be fair to him.
Yeah, his purple patch last season was superb because everyone was kind of saying, this is the Rashford that United fans have been waiting for. I like Marcus Rashford. I really like him, and I hate the fact that I like him because he seems like a really nice fella. I'm just like, why'd you play for those baddies? But Man United probably think that Liverpool are baddies. It's one of them. 325 grand a week is staggering though. In my head, it's still 200 grand for your top level players, 300 grand for your world superstars.
Maybe we're just too old now. I saw a stat saying, I don't know if it's a stat, but just a thing saying he's now the 4th highest paid player in the league. There's Haaland, who's the top, obviously. De Bruyne was 2nd. I forget who 3rd was, and then Rashford's 4th.
Must be Salah. I think Salah's on about... We had to break our wage structure to do it, though. I think he's somewhere approaching 400 grand, I think.
Oh!
Yeah, but Mohamed Salah is world class.
He did have a good season, didn't he?
Yeah, it's not my money.
It is, though. When you pay your ticket, it goes straight into Mo Salah's back pocket.
That's okay. He seems like a lovely man as well.
On to some good news as well. Edwin van der Sar has been moved out of intensive care. As he continues to recover from a brain bleed, the 52-year-old, of course, was hospitalised last week after suffering a brain hemorrhage while on holiday in Croatia. But after being stabilised, he was flown back to an intensive care unit in a Dutch hospital last week. There's a lovely picture shared on Twitter, I think it was yesterday or maybe today, I can't remember, where he's just in a hospital bed with his wife, where he says, "I'm happy to share that I'm no longer in the intensive care unit. However, I'm still in the hospital. I hope to go home next week and take a next step in my recovery." And thank goodness for that. Terrifying scenes.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said last week, all the best of Van der Sar. Hope he makes a full recovery.
He left Ajax at the end of last season, of course, so who knows what his future will hold for him. Something we do know about someone's future is that Cristiano Ronaldo is not going back to any Premier League club. He's been speaking in an interview with somebody I've forgotten to write down. He says, "I'm 100% sure I won't return to any European club. I'm 38 years old and European football has lost a lot of quality. The only valid one still doing good is the Premier League. They're way ahead of all the other leagues. Serie A was dead when I joined Juventus, and then I re-energized it. There's more interest in where Cristiano plays. The same thing happened here in Saudi Arabia. I feel like a pioneer. Aye, a pioneer with a tiny dick, you whopper. What a small dick mentality to have." This comment's come, of course, during an interview where he still had to have a little dig at Lionel Messi. He's claimed that this is Ronaldo, claimed that European football, as I said, they lost a lot of quality, and insists that the Saudi Pro League is better than the MLS, as if the debate about Messi and Ronaldo is still going on after Messi literally just won the World Cup. It was speaking to ESPN, he said this, by the way. He said, "The Saudi League is better than MLS. I opened the way to the Saudi League. Now all the players are coming here. In 1 year, more and more top players will come to Saudi. In a year, the Saudi League will overtake the Turkish League, the Dutch League." The poor Turks and Ducks. And I said the poor Turks and Ducks there, as if they're just two set of birds. The poor Turks and Dutch. My head's still in Benidorm, I think. But I want to admit,
your head is still in bed then. But
what do you think of those tiny dick comments from Cristiano Ronaldo?
He's an arsehole, isn't he? See, Man United, this is the kind of player you should be having. Not Marcus Rashford, not nice man for the community. You need arseholes like Ronaldo back in your squad. I just hate the fact that we're still having the Ronaldo-Messi debate. Can we not concentrate on the young lads instead?
We should do, but it was over. Messi knocked him out good and proper with the World Cup win, did he not?
Yeah, it was. I remember tweeting before that final saying, whoever wins, we all lose, because the Messi and Ronaldo lads are going to be insufferable. Because if Messi won, and then it's just like, oh, Penaldo, huh. And then if, Argentina would have lost, it would have been like, huh, Messi. I hate it.
I don't like that either. Imagine Pira. There'll be Pira these days for Newcastle fans. Oh, he's just Pira.
It's just like football fans on social media have bad patter. Like Van Dijk, when he has a bad game, gets called Van Disney, and it's like, that's rubbish.
Van Disney.
Call him like Van Dickhead or something like that. And they're like, come on.
Yeah, something original.
It's just rubbish.
Van Prick, that's better. Anyway, speaking about Lionel Messi, he came to this. He officially signed his contract with Inter Miami. That was outlined a few weeks ago in the podcast where we spoke about the Apple tie-ins, the Adidas tie-ins, the lots of money tie-ins, the cut of shirt sale tie-ins, worth up to $150 million potentially over the next 2.5 years. Speaking about the move, he said, "It's a fantastic opportunity, and together we will continue to build this beautiful project." He's such a lovely man, isn't he? The idea to work together to achieve the objective we set, and I'm very eager to start helping here in my new home. The highlight of the thing for me, did you see any of the press conference the other day?
No, but I heard about it.
His son nutmegged Messi on the pitch as they were walking around. Messi knew nothing about it. I imagine he would have stopped it because he's Lionel Messi. And also David Beckham. I think it was a little bit of rain, or maybe it was a water gun or something like one of the pitch sprinklers potentially. I don't know. It was wet. The rampway where Beckham was very wet, and he had to literally walk like Theresa May walking into a Tory press conference, but slower, like that, like because he had obviously his loafers on and he couldn't stand up on the very slippery surface. But apart from that, it was boring as balls.
Yeah, but knowing Beckham, he probably styled it out. But that's what I heard afterwards. Everyone saying, slipping almost, kind of. We're fortunate straws here because you're a very handsome and talented man. But yeah, it's. You were saying before, Busquets has joined him as well. That pink Miami shirt is amazing.
You know what I did? I've got a thing to show you actually.
Oh, here he goes. What's he got?
Talk some words.
Is this something? This is probably something from Benidorm.
I've been to DH. No, I've been to DH Gate. Right, I picked this up for £9.
What's the quality like on it?
Very good. It's got texture there, you can see, and it's just, yeah, it feels real. Like the Adidas bits there, they feel a bit fake. The MLS patch, it's a bit ropey. But apart from that, for £9...
Freedom to dream.
I tell you what, though, for £9, I made up from that.
That's not bad. Yeah, I've got a DH Gate bit. I've got a Columbia away shirt from like 2018, I want to say. My mates gave it to me. He said, "Do you want this? It's off DH Gate. It's a bit ucky." He was like, "Yeah, I'm having that."
It's nice for a
yeah, it's all right.
Five-a-side shirt, yeah. That's all you need it for.
Exactly, yeah. And I wore that one to five-a-side. My nipples didn't bleed, so that's all you can ask for.
I might have to do a video about DH Gate shirts because I saw obviously the price of Newcastle's new kit was £70. I was like, oh, we're going to go to a few away games this year. I better get myself a shirt, even though apparently being in Liverpool and wearing a football shirt's a bad thing. You're a dirty shirty. Yeah,
you can only wear a football shirt if you're playing five-a-side, if you're at a festival, or if you're on holiday. They're the rules. Or if you're in your house. If you're in your house, it's all right. But
so I saw
don't be going the ground in it.
I saw the £70 that Castore were asking for their wonky stitching and their horrible quality shirts, and I was like, I'm not paying that. I don't like Castore. The club's got enough money, so they're not going to suffer. I'm going to take my first trip to DH Gate, so I bought 2 for the combined fee of £24, and a rush of blood saw the Lionel Messi one added as well. And the differences are staggering. But I'll make a video out of that, I think, instead of just blinding on the podcast. We'll move on to Bayern Munich.
I'll do it.
Yeah, it's an interesting world, isn't it, football shit? But Bayern Munich have confirmed the arrival of South Korean centre-back Kim Min-jae from Napoli. They've triggered his €50 million release clause to get him over the line. The 26-year-old has enjoyed a whirlwind few years. He started playing in his homeland in 2019. Then he moved to Chinese side Beijing Guan. I think I've said that right, hopefully. Then he would move to Europe 2 years later when he joined Fenerbahce for $3 million. One successful season in Turkey, and it got him an €18 million move to Napoli, and the centre-back is once again moving on after just 12 months at Napoli. Newcastle will link with him, so obviously he's one of the world's best.
Yeah, not seen too much of him. Obviously, Napoli had a great season last year, so why not cash in? I mean,
their team's getting ripped apart.
Yeah, that is true. Has Thingy moved on yet?
The winger,
their striker. Yeah.
What did you say?
I said striker.
Oh, I thought you said shagger. Beg me pardon. I was like, there's shagger. The winger with the little Peter Beardsley haircut that we can't say his name because I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah. Oh God, we're professionals, aren't we?
The one that Newcastle.
Has that fella gone?
I tell you what, I was flying back home from Benidorm at the weekend there, and the news broke on Twitter. Newcastle's bid £82 million for this guy, and I was like, wow, we're in for Special K. That's a great move. Great move for all concerned. He'll be called Special K forevermore until I hear a football commentator say it so much that the right pronunciations burn into my brain.
Talking of Special K, what did you think of Tonali looking absolutely gutted to be sharing around Newcastle's facilities?
Have you seen him on his private yacht with his model girlfriend? The guy never smiles, so I'm not bothered about that at all. And by the way, his thing, it got mistranslated, by the way. He said Newcastle's is bigger, the gym's bigger. And if you look at what you look at the state of AC Milan's training ground, that lovely restaurant Newcastle just built, it's a world away. He was blown away. He was nearly crying. He was that emotional. He's hit the big time.
So, because I remember I think it was Aiden saying one of the first things he wanted to see change when you got taken over was you getting good training facilities. Are these all done now, or are they building a new facility?
They've added on to the existing training ground the bit where, Mike Ashley had the wheelie bins filled with ice as ice baths. They've added on to that. Yeah. They've built extensions here, there, and everywhere. So they've got like a proper cool down bit. They've got a brand new restaurant, new media facilities, like a cinema room for the players. So there's a fantastic tour video on YouTube of Shola Amiobi walking around there, and he gets that the bit with the pool. He's like, things get a bit steamy in here. Now he's walking around the restaurant, just takes a random bite out of an apple. It's a fantastic video. He's got a real
Does he sound
Right?
Does he sound as much like Boise from Only Fools and Horses as you did?
The Geordie Boise, that's Shola Amiobi. But yeah, they're looking to build something like Leicester's somewhere, but they haven't found a site yet. So this was like a stuff for the next 2 or 3 years until they find that plot of land. And then I don't know what's going to happen to the existing training ground. I think I'll ask to move in. What a lovely place to live that would be.
Why not? Get steamy in the swimming pool, apparently.
With Shola Amiobi. Someone who won't be getting steamy in any swimming pool is Harry Maguire. Well, that's not fair. He might get steamy in his own swimming pool, I guess. But Eric Ten Hag has basically said to him, get out of my pub. He's communicated to Harry Maguire that would be better. The quote here in this article, it says, it would be better for all involved if he was to complete a transfer away from Manchester United this summer. Maguire himself, of course, over the weekend on social media confirmed that he has been stripped of the captaincy for next season. But in that massive social media post, he left off the most important bit, where Eric Ten Hag has told him, get out of my pub, you slag! Go away! I don't know why I'm laughing. Harry Maguire seemed like a nice, normal lad before he joined Manchester United, but he does seem to have got so far up his own arse he can see out his own mouth. I go back to that celebration against, was it Lithuania? He scores a goal against Lithuania, and he gets on his knees doing a big slide going, ooh, I can't hear your criticisms, ooh. Get in the bin, Maguire, you freak.
It's like we were saying the other week, though. I mean, I'm not comparing Harry Maguire to David De Gea, but it seems a bit cold just saying, you're not the captain anymore, bugger off. It's like, oh.
Yeah, not just that. You're not the captain anymore. Please leave the club. We're going to sign Johnny Evans to play in pre-season friendlies. Johnny Evans.
This was weird.
It's a weird. Really thing. Man United have signed Johnny Evans on a short-term deal, just in case you forgot it. The 35-year-old's been without a club since leaving Leicester at the end of last season. He signed a short-term contract which allows him to partake in pre-season friendlies only, which starts against Lyon today. That game might have already taken place by the time the podcast goes live. I've never seen this before, and I could only think it's down to not putting Johnny Evans through the indignity of having like a trialist where his name should be on the team sheet. Is he going to earn himself a contract? Is that what's going to happen here?
I don't know. Because this says to me that, again, like you're saying, I don't think they'd bring him in as a starter. I don't know if Ten Hag's thinking, right, we need to kind of get more voices of reason in this locker room. We need to get that proper winning mentality, because he's had a good career, Johnny Evans. He's never been the greatest player, but he was part of Ferguson's United squad and won everything pretty much. Perhaps he's maybe blooding in him to be part of his backroom staff. Maybe that's all I can take from this, because otherwise signing Johnny Evans on a pre-season deal at 35 doesn't make any sense otherwise.
I mean, I think even at his peak, he was a very, very good defender, just not quite at the level of Manchester United. I thought he's one of those players that maybe like Maguire, because Maguire's form, I don't know, I think Maguire had quite a good first season, didn't he? Then he got the captaincy. Then he fell way off. Or maybe he got the captaincy as soon as he arrived. I'm not a Man United fan, I can't remember. But it feels like Man United might be too big for Maguire, and if he was at, I don't know, Spurs or Newcastle, somewhere like that, somewhere like 5th, 6th, somewhere like that, that would suit him more down to the ground. That's what Evans showed when he was at, your West Broms and stuff like that. That's a weird thing to say, because West Brom were never that high, were they? But you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Like you're saying, not to put Johnny Evans down, but when you look at the players that were also in that squad, it was one of those that were just like, yeah, he's good, but he's not like the pinnacle, which is what United were playing at the time. But where do you see Maguire going?
Well, apparently West Ham and Chelsea are the only two teams that are getting properly linked with him at the moment. And out of those two teams, I would probably say Chelsea's the more likely, just because they've got little to nobody else, which is a story we'll comment on now with the news that they've confirmed that Wesley Fofana is to undergo surgery after rupturing his anterior cruciate ligament. The French defender did not travel with Chelsea to the United States for their pre-season tour after being diagnosed with the injury. The centre-back options they have currently are Thiago Silva, who's 57 years old, Barry Ashiel, who's a young lad who just arrived in January, I think. They also have Bashir Humphreys, who's a 20-year-old, a 19-year-old called Alfie Gilchrist, and that's it, because apparently Trevor Chalobah is also going to leave Chelsea this summer.
There's Levi,
I'll Levi Colwill.
Because
Beg your pardon, yeah.
Because as soon as I heard that Fofana had ruptured his cruciate ligament, because obviously Liverpool linked with Colwill, and we were like, so not getting him then. Because I know Chelsea are keen to tie him down, because he looks like if he kicks on and shows, what promise he's shown already, if he can build upon that, he's going to be absolutely mustard. But I don't know. Going back to Maguire slightly, I can see Maguire more at West Ham. I can imagine David Moyes not taking any of his rubbish at all and kind of like grounding him again, if you know what I mean. Not grounding him, telling him that he can't, play out with his friends for a week, but deflating his head a little.
Yeah, it feels like the sort of signing West Ham would have made a few years ago, like someone who's past their best, but will go down to West Ham on a big contract.
Yeah.
It feels like that sort of move.
Yeah,
I don't know if that move has left West Ham, but then Danny Ings is there, isn't he?
I mean, that was a weird one, Danny Ings, because I was just, when it happened, I was like, hang on, wasn't he at Villa? It was like, did I make that up? Isn't that just the same kit? But yeah, he had that little move, didn't he?
He did. He's lost all his hair now. Fair enough to him. I don't know why I even brought that up.
I like Danny Ings, yeah.
I like him as a player as well. He's one of Dyche's lieutenants, Sean Dyche, in the championship with Danny Ings. What a player. Anyway, FIFA president and fellow bald man Gianni Infantino smugly declared that the Winter World Cup was the best ever World Cup. There was certainly the case from an economic perspective, because the international jamboree is 90 minutes per, I think it was, delivered more than $7.5 billion, which is £5.7 billion in revenue, in excess of $1 billion more than 2018's tournament in Russia. Bollocks about financials. The most interesting part of this story is we learned how much every single player in the final squads made for being in the World Cup. So, as runners-up, the entire French Federation was afforded a bulk sum of $30 million, which is around £23 million. Just as they did upon their triumph in 2018, the playing staff were allotted 30% of the prize fund, which equates to roughly £265,000 per player. Je ne sais quoi, va-va-voom. All those things. And then 90 Minutes have made an assumption here for the Argentine FA. If they did the same thing as their French counterparts, because they got what the French did, they didn't get what the Argentines did. So if they did the same thing and they were handed 30% of their total sum to their players, then Lionel Messi, all the Argentine players, would have been given £370,000 each. During the 20 and I don't know why they threw this in, but during the 2022-2023 season, Messi earned more than £1 million a week from his salary at Paris Saint-Germain. Imagine being class at football. How easy life would be.
Even just being okay at football, you'd have a good life. Being absolutely class.
Imagine being in League One or League Two, top end of League Two maybe, and getting £40,000 or £50,000 a year for playing football. You'd feel like a millionaire, wouldn't you? You'd feel like a millionaire.
Yeah.
And he's there getting $1 million.
Imagine being one of like Messi's close friends from childhood and being like, "Hey, Lionel, I've been with you all these years. Do you fancy giving me 10 grand a week?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, why not?" Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, of course.
Yeah. As we all know, Lionel Messi's from Kirkdale.
But that's I knew that they got played obviously at FIFA turning out for the international teams, but I didn't realise, winning the World Cup gave you that much as, 370 grand for winning the World Cup for an Argentine footballer. I didn't realise it was that much.
No, it's never really crossed my mind before. I just always assumed, they'd probably get paid a flat rate for playing for the national team. And then in terms of like the big World Cup sponsors, that's where they get the money for playing in the World Cup. But yeah, there's too much money in football, isn't there?
There is too much money in football. But I guess we might as well mention the women as well, because I saw that the women were kicking off this week, that they weren't getting the sort of same. It was the Australian team, wasn't it, saying they weren't getting the same as their male counterparts. But I think that's where the difference is. It's got nothing to do with the football. It's all these big companies trying to get involved in the football that provides the men's game with more money than the women's. I think that's all it boils down to, does it not?
I did see that. I think the demand for tickets was the highest it's ever been for the Women's World Cup. And which team was it the other year? Was it the Norway team? Were the first one to start paying the men's and women's teams equally? Which, yeah, I don't see why not. But that's always the thing about the women's game. It is growing, and people just like, oh, why aren't the top women's players on like 200 grand a week? And it's like because the sponsorship money's not there. And if it grows to a point where more sponsors get on board, then wages will rise. But
I think you're laughing if you're a footballer who's just been born this year. If you're a would-be footballer who's just been born this year, like a lady footballer, getting involved in the women's game in 15 years, 16 years time turning pro, you'd assume more teams will be professional. So Newcastle's one of the few teams in England whose women's team are actually like full-time professionals.
Yeah,
and they're in Division 3, I think, out of 4.
It must be like what, Newcastle, Arsenal. I've got a really good women's team, haven't they? Chelsea as well,
yeah.
Yeah, because my niece I think she's 15 going on 16, and she's mint. She's really good. But I said to my brother, I was like, oh, has there been any like scouting or anything? And he just went, she's already too old for it. And that's the women's game as well. Yeah, so too old to be scouted. That he thinks they've missed the boat, really. So
no, get it filmed on YouTube. Get that girl going
that's
viral.
What I thought, yeah. I don't know. She's a miserable little sod, so I might have to. It might take some convincing.
Fair enough. But 20 years time, the women's game, they'll be on. It will be more equal, I think, because there'll be more sponsorship, and as the game grows season on season, which it feels like it continues to do, that's where it'll be. Arsenal have confirmed the signing. Someone's ringing me. Hang on. Who is it? Oh, it's my girlfriend. I'm podcasting. Sorry. Arsenal have announced the signing of Netherlands international defender Jurien Timber after reaching an agreement with Ajax. It's £40 million for the 22-year-old who can play at centre back and at right back. He joins Havertz and Rice as the three big summer signings for Arsenal, who are building themselves a brand new spine, it looks like.
Yeah, I think I looked. Arsenal's net spend is around 180 million so far. And the Ajax Academy, I've not seen much of Timber. We were linked with him at one point, but as soon as you hear Ajax Academy, you're like, well, he's bound to be mint, isn't he?
He comes from good stock.
Good stock, that lad. Good stock.
Good stock. And speaking of good stock, we move on now to our highlight of the week. Do you want to go first this time?
Yeah. So calling it a highlight is not really the right term, but it was, again, that Dele Alli interview was just, it's must-watch stuff. I think what has made me not smile, because I never smile, but what's made me go, oh, thank God, is the amount of love and support that's come out from online and in the terraces from fans and players alike. I saw an Everton banner for their pre-season tour. They made a big banner saying, you're one of us, Dele, all that kind of stuff. People being really nice to him at signings and stuff, and just getting behind the lad. It's been really nice to see. Football, when it's done right, is just, it's amazing. There's nothing like it, but it seems to be, we don't see the good side of the game as much as we should, really.
Aye, and especially to try and constitute it as a highlight of the week sort of thing. Him getting it off his chest finally after a couple of decades of keeping it all in. Obviously, the knock-on effects that'll have for people who are in similar situations. Seeing someone like that at the top of football who's been through something similar. It's just there's no downside to doing that interview. I don't think, if that makes sense.
No. Yeah, because even in himself at the end, I think Neville asked, what do you want to get out of this? And he says, if he just helps one person, then he's happy. So, up the Dele Alli.
Up the Dele Alli, indeed. Now, I feel a bit bad for making my highlight of the week what it is this week, because Norwich City have released their new home shirt. It's not the best. It's obviously a horrible shade of yellow, because that's what Norwich do, accompanied by a pretty bad shade of green, considering the shade of yellow that they use, and it's now got like hoops around it all the way down, like one of those, like a French mime artist, that sort of thing, but a bit more spaced out. I don't know why that was the first thing that came to my mind. Help me out, will you? Well, you know what I mean?
Like a classic bank robber.
Like a classic bank robber, yes. So a Norwich fan was asked about his opinions of the new Norwich home kit, and this is what he had to say.
Final question, that new home kit was released. Are you going to go buy it or not?
I already look disabled enough. Why would I wear that?
I just can't follow that. Listen, enjoy the game today. Thanks for your time. Cheers.
For context, Ross,
he's in
the fan in question.
I should have probably said this before. He's in a wheelchair. and he takes it all in very good humour, and it's a fantastic response.
Yeah, it's a very good response.
It's a very good response.
But yeah, we've got to have some levity on this show. It's fine having that as your highlight of the week. I thought you were going to pick Eric Cantona's song going into this.
Well, again, I don't know. I don't want to take the piss too much out of it in case it's got some important historical significance, which it could do the way it's said. It's not sang, is it? Well, it is kind of sang, but it's more spoken than sang.
Yeah, because at first I thought it was Cantona saying, some of his famous proverbs, like the seagull that follows the trawler, catches the fish, and all that kind of stuff. But it's just Big Eric being from the heart, just like that Norwich fan was. Just like the Norwich fan was.
We go from our highlight of the week to our twat of the week. I'll go first this time. I was struggling this week. There's not been too much to go off in terms of twats. I've gone for James Ward-Prowse. Now, of course, Southampton have slapped a reported £53 million price tag on him, which is absolutely ridiculous to begin with. Even though he might be that important to Southampton, I still think that's ridiculous to put essentially a ball and chain on a guy who will surely want to leave for the betterment of his career and his England career and stuff like that. But with that, it surely now means that he can't put a foot wrong in any game if he wants to get himself a move, because everyone will go, 53 million quid, and you're doing that. Come on now, let's think about things. So in a pre-season friendly against Turkish side Göztepe SK this week, he went and did what David Beckham did against the Turkish national team back in the day, and he blazed it high, wide, and Alan Hansen. It was an astonishing angle on the penalty. It basically just went straight up in front of him. I don't know how he did it. It didn't go towards the bar and just sort of rise gently. Be careful, Ross. It just went like that, didn't it? Straight up in the air.
It was a vertical kick. I don't know how he did it from a still ball position, but that was one of the worst penalties I've ever seen in my life.
Now, there's no doubt he'll love Southampton, but I reckon James Ward-Prowse is gagging for a transfer this summer. So the fact he went and did that is not going to help his cause, and that's why he is my twat of the week. There's been bigger twats, we'll say that, but he's my twat of the week this week.
I bet he was getting rinsed by his teammates as soon as they went in as well, weren't he? He was like, "Oh, you're not going to get a move off that, are you?
Yeah, you're going to have to stay here with me.
Do you want to move into ours? We've got a bunk bed."
I tell you what, which one's worse, that one or the Beckham one? I think it's the Beckham one. Have you seen Turkey away before Euro 2004, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's just because it's Beckham and it was more high profile, probably.
And he sliced it as well. It went up and slice. Yeah. Up and slice. Up the slice.
Up the seat and slice.
Up the seat and slice. That's a place near Newcastle, everybody. What's your highlight? Twat of the week. Sorry there, Jack Atkins. Is it me?
No, it's not. You never are, Ross. As we alluded to before, it is the captain of Liverpool FC, Jordan Henderson. It's been hard to kind of digest it, because talking in pure football, I'll start with the football in terms of it. In terms of the fact that Henderson's deal got leaked out to the press and Fabinho's didn't, suggests that he's been trying to maybe play with the press, if you know what I mean, to try and get his move. He did it in 2021 when he was trying to get a new deal. Allegedly, it seemed like he was doing it in 2021 to try and get a new deal. The fact that he's left Liverpool in the lurch as well, and also by doing this, if we do go in for any midfielders, they know that we're going to have, money from his and Fabinho's sales burning a hole in our pocket. Again, the big thing is that Henderson's been such an advocate for many noble causes. He was championing supporting the NHS through COVID, but the biggest one is he's been one of the most high-profile players in the English game to support LGBTQ plus community with, through the Rainbow Laces campaign, through statements he's put out on social media, in official press bits. There was, but obviously going to Saudi Arabia is a nation and a state that very harsh on LGBTQ plus people. Anything from arrests, jail time, public shunning, even worse. It's a bad look for him. And obviously sitting here as two straight men who earn a nice wage, we can't really comment on it too much, because I'm sure if someone came to us and said, here's 700 grand a week
to do the same
your job.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we'd take it, because we're definitely on not even 100 grand a week, not even 10 grand a week.
No.
So that kind of question with the money, until you put in that position, you're like, oh, but he's hung himself out to dry. And if he does end up staying at Liverpool, he's burnt a lot of bridges. There was a really good piece in The Athletic, just trying to get it up this week, from Kiva O'Neill, who's football writer for The Athletic, and his I think she's gay, and saying that, to have someone like Jordan Henderson speaking on behalf of their community as an ally meant so much, but now it's like, oh, you've turned your back on us. I think if he does stay with Liverpool, he's going to get I don't think a full-on hostile reaction from the crowd, but I don't think it's going to be warm. It's the old adage, isn't it? You die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. It's a hard one, like I said, to really sum up as straight white men, but it's left a bad taste in the mouth.
There's an update 12 minutes ago from Fabrizio on this one. He says, exclusive: Liverpool and Al Eti What have just reached an agreement in principle on a fee for Jordan Henderson. Here we go. It's been said, it's happening. Henderson already agreed a 3-year deal last week. Documents to be checked, then time to sign and move to Saudi. Steven Gerrard is now waiting for JH. So he's gone.
It's just... You don't want to see a legend of your team leave like this as well. It feels like was it like Don Revie, obviously back in the day, great Leeds manager, ended up taking the England job and then just kind of disappeared. I think he went to the Middle East and his career kind of ended under a bit of uncertainty, and it's like, you don't want to see someone kind of go out like that. I don't know. It's hard to really process my thoughts on it, but it's not been great. It's not been a good look.
It's just because you can't see it from both sides, as you say. Like, if we got offered to do the same job for that massive wage increase, even for him, you're probably just going to think about the future. That was the good thing about Ruben Neves, by the way, this week, coming out and saying, I've just done it because I think he said my family's my greatest trophy or something like that, just to set his entire family up for generations to come with the wage you'll get over the next 2 or 3 years or whatever. So you can see it from that perspective. But the fact he was the one who put that statement out, it just makes it, because you do sometimes feel that these sort of, when football as a whole really are doing sort of show racism the red card, and then we're still seeing examples of racism in global football, no matter where we're, even here in England, the sort of Rainbow Laces campaign, it makes it all feel hollow, and you try to think it's not hollow, but it clearly is still hollow.
Yeah, and it's one of those as well. It's it is just, and this is going to sound terrible, but it's easier to keep your mouth shut, and unfortunately, I think this is. I don't think it's set the Rainbow Laces campaign or anything like that back, but to see someone who's been such an ambassador for Jordan Henderson having his head turned by the money, it's not great.
Yeah, not good at all. We move on from the Twat of the Week segment to is there a wonder kid this week, Chattings? I didn't ask you.
There isn't. No. I thought I'd do it every other week. The one week you ask as well.
I'm absolutely.
I gave you that great on this day section at the beginning. What you want out of me?
I want everything. I want it all, and I want it now, as Freddie Mercury once said. Anyway, we move on then to the mailbag. I need to mention that the mailbag gets busier and busier every week, so thank you very much. If you're not hearing your question read out one week, please get back in contact. You'll get it read here the other week. I never take a note of any names. It's always just on the fly, on the shoot. And I said on the shoot there. Well, it's not a wrestling podcast. On the fly. It's always just ooh, that's the best question. Let's put it in there. So we have the first one, which starts with Hep the Better. Big fan of the pod. Keep up the great Hep the Better. Keep up the great work, lads. My question is, are there any players, past or present, that you just didn't get? Everyone swears they're brilliant and you just didn't see it. Mine, for example, is Raheem Sterling. For a man that's had a fantastic career, I've never seen why he's been so highly rated. Thanks. Peace and love from Jay. So then, I've heard on the grapevine that you've got several examples here.
I've got a couple, yeah, because I have to. I sat down and thought about this because, a little peek to how the sausage is made. We're not just completely flying by the seat of our pants. Usually, with only about 10 minutes to spare, we'll send each other notes and be like, right, have we got this, this, and this? So I was having a think, and obviously the other week I said about, at first I wasn't sure about Kaka, but obviously, Kaka is Kaka, and I soon shut up. And this one, in terms of full career, the first name that came to mind, and it wasn't like a superstar that everyone said was amazing, but Mikel John Obi jumped out for me because
he was just
300.
A guy who would sit in front of the back four and just pass it from side to side. Jack Colback did that for Newcastle for years.
Yeah, but like Obi, I remember because at first Ferguson wanted him at United, and it seemed like it was all done. And then he went to Chelsea, and Ferguson was fuming. 372 Chelsea appearances in all competitions and won the lot, but I couldn't really tell you anything he ever did.
He passed the ball sideways.
Yeah, he was just there. In terms of someone who, again, didn't have a great career but was more high profile, Jack Wilshere. I remember when he first came out.
Oh, you can't be saying you didn't get him now. Come on. Norwich
goal was incredible. But people were falling over him like he was the second coming. And I was like,
hey, he had that pre-season tournament when he was 16. I remember watching it on Sky. I think it was before the 08-09 season. I hope I'm right there. And I can't remember who they played against, but Wilshere was like 16 then. And he was taking the piss out of people. He was a proper talent. And it's a shame that injuries got in the way of his career.
Pre-seasons don't count though, Ross. Like when Owen Mawson and I were fondly remembering Xherdan Shaqiri's overhead.
No. Pre-seasons count. Pre-seasons don't count when you say we all remember where we were when a meaningless pre-season goal went in. That's where the line is. You went over the line saying we all remember, with no hint of irony, because of course when you type things out on Slack and other messaging services, you can clearly detect the irony. I took that as a legitimate comment from you because that's just, sometimes, no offence, sometimes Liverpool fans can be a bit that way, thinking they're the greatest thing. Yeah. Like, you invented sitting down the other week. I saw there was another team that he's holding up 7 fingers towards me. Is it 7 or 6? I can't quite see. Six. Beg me pardon. There was some other team announced a player had them sitting down in a chair with a bit like retro background and stuff, and someone was like, they've copied us! They've copied us! And someone quoted saying, yes. They've invented sitting down now, the Scousers.
Yes, we have. Yeah. But yeah, Wilshere, I didn't see the hype. I just thought, no, we're building this lad up too much. And like you said, injuries did rob him of what he could have achieved. But I was just like, nah, not for me.
Tell you what, the one that was for me, until he came to the Premier League in 2016, it was Zlatan.
Oh, really?
I thought he was more known for obviously being a bit of a, his character off the pitch and the interviews and whatnot. I just thought as a footballer, he goes abroad, and then it felt like when he went to PSG, that's when he started being like, I am the Zlatan, the great this, that, and the other. But then when he came to the Premier League, I was like, he's a fairly decent player. He's a fairly decent player considering he was 36 or whatever back then, and he was still ripping things up. So up until 2016, the player who fits this question for me was Zlatan. Because you go through the stuff with Guardiola at Barcelona, didn't work out there. He went to Paris Saint-Germain after it not really working out. Inter, I guess, as well. Milan was thrown in there, I guess. And for what people used to say about Zlatan up until he came to Man United, that was like, he's not all that, is he? Is he? Come on now.
Well, so you just felt like he was like a glorified journeyman?
Yeah, a glorified Kevin Davies. I don't mean that, I'm joking. It's a glorified Peter Crouch.
Oh, I love a bit of Peter Crouch. I mean, he didn't score in like his first.
Steady on.
It was very under my breath that his first 85 games for Liverpool, but I gotta love a bit of Peter Crouch.
I love his first goal. Or it just gets deflected and then the keeper throws it in.
And he milked that for all his worth as well.
Oh yeah. Have you got any more that you didn't rate before we move on?
No, that's everything for my did not rate.
There you go. I'm sure this is the end of the podcast after hearing I didn't rate Zlatan before he joined Man United. Good day, Dr. Hold and Mr. Give. Got a bit of a philosophical question for you. What's your opinion on fans of football clubs who weren't born in the area of that club? For instance, I'm in Australia, but I follow West Ham. I've never been to England, in brackets, yet, and the only reason I follow them is when I was a kid and I played football/soccer, and all the teams were given Premier League team names. Mine was West Ham, and it's stuck ever since. Just curious on your opinion. Cheers, lads. Up the Irons. Frank from Brisbane, Australia. All the best.
Do you want to go first?
For me, oh no. I've missed a bit out. So he's put Frank from Brisbane, Australia, all the best underneath. Former Swansea City striker and one season wonder, Michu, a.k.a. Jack. Not Atkins. Is that from a different mailbag? That might be from a mailbag that I cut out in favour of this other one. Jack, I'm very sorry, but your mailbag got cut this week. I feel like an arsehole now, but that is the cutthroat nature of a free question mailbag. So sorry, Jack, for slash meet you. But also, I think there needs to be obviously, that's a very nice reason that the Frank's given there. Obviously, being in Australia, not much access to the Premier League for obvious reasons. It's the other side of the bastard world. It's the fact that he was having a game when he was a kid, formative years and all that sort of stuff, given West Ham, and it's stuck. That's a nice reason. But I would say if you're in the country, if you're in England, and let's say you're from London and you support Manchester United, for example, I don't know why that one came to my head. I think there needs to be a tie in there with your family for it to be okay. If it's not, you're just a glory seeker. If you're from Newcastle and you support Southampton, then I'm asking why, and I want to know why, because that's not the trodden path, is it? But I like for there to be some sort of legitimate reason that you support a football team. I think that's the way it should be as well.
In terms of overseas fans, yeah, no problem with it at all. I lived over in Canada for a couple of years, and I used to have to get up at like 6 a.m, go to the Liverpool bar to watch games, and it was packed full of. There was just this really angry Canadian guy next to me. He used to go ballistic, but if you're a passionate fan, you're a passionate fan. The only issues are when Liverpool and other clubs start catering to the overseas and like day tripper fans more than the bread and butter, because they know that the fans who come week in, week out aren't going to spend money in the club shop. They're probably going to go to the pie shop outside rather than buying the Liverpool branded hot dogs. So they do see outside and overseas fans as, just a revenue stream. But if you support the team, you support the team. For me, I was given I don't follow the Bundesliga, but as a kid, I was given a Mönchengladbach t-shirt. So if anyone ever asked me who's my German team, I'm just like, Mönchengladbach, obviously. Couldn't tell you who plays for him currently. But it's just one of those. I also had a Detroit Red Wings hockey poster on my wall when I was a kid. So if anyone asked me my hockey team, like, I'm a Red Wings guy, but I haven't watched hockey properly in a good decade. So it's, if you've got a real passion for it and you're up in the irons, then up the irons to your heart's content. I hope you can get to the Olympic Stadium for a game. Well,
yeah, but if you're just picking the more successful teams because you don't want to support your local team because they're a bit worse, that means you're the worst person who's ever lived.
Yeah, there's a lot of those people on Twitter that I'm not overly fond of. They're just like, haha, loser pool. It's like, hang on.
Lollapoo.
You support Man City and Real Madrid, and you're from, I don't know, Den Bosch. What's going on there?
I tell you what, though,
that kind of stuff's a bit weird.
The reason for my German team is an awful one. FIFA 13. Do you remember that? FIFA 13? Did you ever play that game?
I didn't play FIFA. The last FIFA game I played was FIFA 12, and that was the first one I'd played since FIFA 2001, I think. I'm not a FIFA guy.
The Dortmund team on that FIFA 13 is the reason why Dortmund are my German team. That's the only reason. And the yellow wall. I like the yellow wall and their displays and whatnot, but that's it.
Yeah. My cousin was a Dortmund fan because he had a friend of the family who was from Dortmund and used to send stuff over to him. He had like a big Dortmund gnome and stuff like that, and all the shirts when he was a kid. But he got himself into a weird position because he used to work on the road a lot and used to work in Leeds, and he was a Liverpool season ticket holder. But because he was working in Leeds a lot, and this was when Leeds were lower league, he started going to Elland Road and became a Leeds fan. So when Leeds got promoted to the Premier League, he was like, I've now got two teams. This is a bit weird.
Gotta get rid of one. You can't have two. That's a
No,
thing.
he kept them both.
Oh.
Kept them both. Yeah. Yeah.
That's made me feel a bit sick. That made me feel a bit sick.
Obviously, when it was Liverpool versus Leeds, he was fully Liverpool, but he was... Yeah, it became weird. I've never actually spoken with him about it, but I watched it happen as they were creeping up, and I was like, oh, let's see what happens if they get to the Premier League. But,
I tell you what, the worst thing is though, fans of a football league team having a Premier League team as well. I went to uni with a lad who was a Rochdale fan, and I hope he doesn't listen to this because his dad was a Spurs fan. I think his dad went to that FA Cup final when it was Coventry versus Spurs, the Ricky Villa one. And he saw that happen. He became a Spurs fan and went on his way home. Is that not the worst thing you've ever heard? So because of that, the lad I lived with at uni, who was a Rochdale fan, also supported Spurs in the Premier League, which was really annoying. Obviously, when I was at uni, it was between 2011 and 2014, which is when Spurs were really good. And apart from that one season when we finished fifth, Newcastle were bloody rotten. So he would obviously have a lot of gloating to do when Newcastle played Spurs, because on more times than not, Spurs would thwack all over Newcastle. But it would make me sick thinking, you're a Rochdale fan, really, you dirty boy.
How do you feel about it the other way around? Because, like, obviously I've got a soft spot for Tranmere because
that's your local team. Yeah, your local team's fine. I've got a soft spot for Morpeth as well as Newcastle. Not so much Blythe, but yeah, you go.
You're not a fan of the Spartans, then?
Dirty Blythe. Quick slice of breaking news before we crack on with the last question from the mailbag. Obviously, that Jordan Henderson discussion was the big question this week, so that mailbag question will be the last one this week, the last bit of the podcast. Mahrez has gone to Saudi Arabia now. It's been confirmed, it looks like, to Al Ali. Ali! What are you doing, Ali? Oh, Ali.
Oh, hey, Ali. I was about to say it then. I had to stop myself. As I said in the work chat, then another one bites the dust.
And Onana has just been confirmed to Man United. Fabrizio's put a tick and a red circle and a pen with a hand and hashtag, good God, MUFC. I tell you what, I can't do 3 days of drinking again because my insides have not been right ever since. As I spoke about earlier, I just peel the curtain back, I'm going for it. I've just had to go for a mid-podcast poo. It's been terrible, everybody. Anyway, you didn't need to know that. We'll go to the last question in the mailbag after those 2 bits of breaking transfer news that we covered there. Hey, fellas, it says, love the podcast. After Premier League legend Robbie Keane was appointed the head coach of Maccabi Tel Aviv, my question is, what is the weirdest club you remember a big name signing for? HC or what? In brackets, HC or player, MLS or Saudi Arabia don't count. HC?
Head coach.
You're a clever boy. Yours, former Liverpool winger and current Israeli national team general manager, Yossi Benayoun, a.k.a. Toma from Israel. Thank you very much, Toma. Is that true about Yossi Benayoun?
I didn't know that.
Me neither.
He formerly played for Liverpool. Well, yeah.
I never forget.
A bit of Yossi Benayoun.
Never forget being in my hotel in Malta in the summer of 2005, reading the paper saying Newcastle have agreed a deal for Israeli international Yossi Benayoun. And he goes to West Ham. He's a lovely player.
And I can't imagine him being a general manager or in any kind of management setup because he just seemed like such. Not
nice
like a
man.
wallflower, but yeah, he was just there, just kind of like, you're right. And it's like, all right, Yossi, how you doing?
Yeah. When I've heard that question there, my mind went straight to Alan Pardew and what's happened to him over the last few years. I'm going to have to get it up in front of me now just to make sure I get the teams right. So, after leaving Newcastle in 2014, he had his stint at Crystal Palace in 15-16, that ill-fated West Brom taxi-ridden bit in 17-18. Then he went to ADO Den Haag in Holland. Then he was like, I need to find the position now, the actual thing he had. Let me just find it for a second. Where is he? Come on now. He was appointed advisor on football matters to the owners of CSK Sofia. Advisor on football matters was his job title. Then after leaving that job, after going on 2 years in that job, he was then appointed the new manager of Greek Super League club, Aris Thessalonica. That was hard, that. But Alan Pardew's the first name that came in my mind there when thinking about weird. He's not even a big name, is he? Just it's a weird career trajectory, isn't it? Whee!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in hindsight, if we're going with managers, this one just popped into my head when Was it Roy Hodgson? Was it Inter? That one's weird.
In the mid 90s.
Yeah, looking really cool in a Mac. But for players, the first one that came to me was Cambiasso to Leicester. Was mad.
He was at the end of his career, to be fair. I'm just playing devil's advocate with you.
Yeah, but the fact that it was just like, oh, Leicester have just been promoted and they've signed Esteban Cambiasso, and I was just like, ooh, spicy. Was it one season? He left before the dominant run, didn't he?
Yeah.
There was Tevez Mascherano to West Ham was odd because as soon as that happened, we all went, "Oh, that's something's a bit dodgy there. Something's a bit off there." Who else?
I thought
Thomas Gravesen to Real Madrid.
Thomas Gravesen to Real Madrid. That's like the other direction, isn't it? Like the smaller name going to the bigger club. I guess you could throw Julian Faubert into that one as well. When he went to Real Madrid, Adebayor maybe as well, but he had more of a reputation, didn't he, to get to Real Madrid?
Oh yeah. JJ Okocha to Bolton.
But all of them to Bolton. Fernando Hierro, Ivan Campo.
What was he? Amazing Bolton.
What was he called? The Mexican guy, Mexican striker. Oh, I've forgotten his name. He was not Bobic. Oh yeah, Bobic, I guess, could get thrown in there. Mexican striker, Bolton. I can think of his name, but I can't remember. That was it. Jared Borghetti. Do you remember him?
No.
What a player. No. His nickname was the Desert Fox.
Oh, wait! Wasn't that the nickname of Erwin Rommel, the Nazi general? But yeah, Edgar Davids to Barnes. Let's end it on that.
Edgar Davids to Barnes, yeah. When he gave himself the #1 shirt because he felt he was the best.
When he was like 45 years old at the time. And even then I was still like, yeah, but it's Edgar Davids. He's tasty in the tackle.
There we go. Then that's the mailbag for this week. If you want your mailbag potentially read out next week, as I say, it's getting busier week on week, which is very nice to see. So thank you very much. It's Ross at holdengive.com. Is it? I'm not even sure that's right now. Is it?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Ross at holdengive.com. It is, yeah. Yeah, Ross at holdengive.com. I tell you, it's not been a good week.
You're too old for the session now, Ross.
Officially, I am. It's a horrible thing to go through.
You'll get like me soon, where you're forgetting everything. I'm not at that stage yet where I'm mispronouncing every footballer's name like your drunk uncle, but I feel that's in my future. But it's a slippery slope, mate.
Oh, it's my 31st birthday in 2 weeks' time, so the decline's going to get even more rapid, I feel. So there we go. That was Hold and Give Football Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe. Do all that sort of bollocks that people ask for endlessly. Turn on your notifications bells. As I say, the mailbag is at that address there, Ross at holdengive.com. Jack Atkins will be back next week with a Wonder Kid, hopefully, because that's my favourite segment.
Yeah, I'll treat you.
Me bi-weekly Wonder Kid. That's what I live for. So any closing remarks before we go away? Obviously the big question was Jordan Henderson. We said there, is he right to go? We can see it from both sides, can't we? But it just feels a bit ugh.
Yeah, because it is one of those that it's easy for us to comment, but if we were put in that situation, I'm sure if we were offered a stupid amount of money, some of our morals might go out the window. You'd like to think they wouldn't, but until you get tested, you never know for sure, do you? You don't. So that was it. That was Hold and Give Football Podcast. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week at roughly the same time. Up the bar. Up the batter. And up the Desert Fox. The Jared Borghetti version, obviously not the. I was just looking at his career there. It's not good at all. I don't know where I plucked his name from. He's went from Atlas to Santos Laguna to Sinaiola to Pachuca to Bolton. What have I talked about there? To be fair, for Mexico, 89 appearances, 46 goals. That's pretty good. Desert Fox.